I'm Eric Wolf, and my experience in business peer groups has changed my life, especially my membership in Vistage, one of the world's largest CEO advisory groups. I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner, and a Vistage speaker on the power of marketing. This podcast is dedicated to the people who make those experiences possible, the peer group chairs. Every episode, I interview a Vistage chair who has dedicated their time to helping entrepreneurs like me succeed. Welcome to Chairwaves. I have two guests with me today. One of them you have met before on a previous episode, Mike Tetreau. And also with me is Daron Shepard, who is now in cahoots with Mike, co-chairing a group. So I think and I'd like to get into, obviously, we've talked on this podcast about Mike's past and his history before. So we won't go too far back for him, but we will definitely want to hear about your background, Daron. But first, and I'll actually start this off with you, Daron. What made you guys decide to team up and do this together? What was the impetus for that? And actually, I should make you write down both of your answers like the Newlywed Game and see if they match. But go for it. Welcome.
I think you'll get a similar answer. I was at the late stages of my Vistage career. I've been doing it for 11 years. I'm moving down to Sarasota, Florida, and I was on the cusp of whether to continue with my group or not. And we actually had a kind of a moratorium within our members. We said, let's take some time off and think about it. And at about that time, I learned Mike was starting a group, and Mike and I talked about it, and we said, I think we can do this more easily together than we can independently. So we merged our groups, and it's been working out fabulously so far.
Very cool. Mike, what was your thinking?
I had the chance to start a new group, and as I was doing that, Daron and I connected, and having a chance to work with somebody like Daron, get the benefit of his experience, both for me as well as the members that I'd put together so far, I saw that as a great opportunity.
How hard has it been for you guys to sort of find the chemistry with each other? And I imagine that with both of you having a whole good chunk of experience of leading groups on your own, I imagine it's a little bit different with another chair in the room.
I've loved working with Mike. He's generous. He's really skilled. And I think our strengths and our weaknesses complement each other. So I think our members get a better experience. But we've really, I think, probably the characteristic, Mike, that helps us get along is we're both caring people and we're sensitive people. And so we're checking in with each other all the time to make sure what we're doing is fair and appropriate and the workload is shared. And I think because of that communication, there hasn't been a chance for anything to fester. If there's been any questions we've had, we've talked through them. So I think it's worked out famously.
And Mike used to be the mayor, so I hear that he can still fix a parking ticket or two, and that's helpful.
Mike used to be the mayor, so he knows how to negotiate and sees both sides.
Very cool. Mike, how has that been for you to now be doing this with sort of with a dancing partner?
Yeah, it's I find it fascinating because I can look at some of our background, both playing and coaching football, in a non-business sense, and realize that Daron and I have certain similarities. On the other hand, we are very different people, so we have different approaches. I had a chance to get to know Daron through our chair best practice groups that we have, and I've had tremendous respect for him for a number of years, and I really value his perspective because it's really interesting, and it's also really different than mine. So I look at this as a real advantage for me because I get to see what's going on through another set of eyes in real time. But it's also great for our members. They get two perspectives. And I think it works because we have great respect for each other.
And Eric, something I appreciate what you said, Mike. Something else that's really helpful, Mike and I have both noticed this, is when you're chairing a group, you're very conscious about the sensitivities and the expressions and the flow. You're not just listening to everything that's being said because you're also hyper sensitive to how everybody's interacting and what's coming next. And when there's another chair in the room and we're sort of taking our turn being that facilitator, the other chair can sit back and kind of be a participant and really listen to what's being said. So you participate in the room at a higher level than you are sometimes as a chair. Do you agree with that, Mike?
Oh, yes. In fact, I'd add that it's a tremendous growth opportunity for both of us because I get to go to Darren after and say, "So, what did you think? What was good? What could have been better?" And you don't always get that kind of feedback in real time. So I find that it's helping each of us grow as chairs every time we have a meeting and get to work together.
That's really that's really cool, and that is an interesting dynamic because I guess that as a chair, you never really get to attend your own meeting and
Right.
see what it's like from the perspective of one of the folks sitting at the table. And I guess that for portions of the meeting, you actually get to do that, which is interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would say that we talk about our CEOs, our members, as having a lonely at the top feeling in their business, and that's why they come to a Vistage peer group. For chairs, it's much the same. If you're the chair, there's a certain lonely at the top feeling, and having a chance to co-chair really helps that uh, impact and helps you get over that.
And a lot of folks know that Vistage chairs are also they sort of roll up into local groups in what they call the best practice groups. But I imagine that even having that, I imagine that you get quite a bit out of those meetings. But I guess it's completely different actually having another experienced chair in the room with you while you're leading your actual meeting.
No question.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
And I think one more thing, we can provide each other feedback that members can't, because if members have only had one chair, they think
Right.
that's how a chair behaves. We get to see dozens of other chairs in our VSG sessions, the Vistage chair sessions. And while we discuss a lot of topics, we don't actually get to observe each other chairing. But now we can observe each other from the perspective of a chair. Like I noticed that Mike is so much more detail oriented and brings a real business uh, operation to the way the meetings are run and the way we communicate afterwards. Um, and my members had never experienced that. And I'm thinking some of them have been with me for 11 years and going, where was all this? Why didn't we ever have that kind of follow up or detail? Because that's what they came to expect, because that's not the way that I've chaired. And now they get to see that. And so I think it's, Mike, when you think about it, co-chairs is really a valuable way for Vistage chairs to grow, and everyone should have a chance to sit in on each other's meetings more often.
Yeah.
And
And Darren, I think what I love about what you pointed out is because we have different perspectives, our members get the benefit of those different perspectives.
yeah,
And as much as we all try to listen actively and to what's being said, what's not being said, as you're facilitating a meeting, sometimes, as Darren pointed out, you can get caught up in the meeting and worrying about what's next. We just had an experience where Darren did just a great job of listening to the next level, and I got to watch him do that. So I got to learn. Members got the benefit of that. So it was win-win for the members, win-win for us as chairs.
Very cool. So Darren, you're new here, so I want to put you on the hot seat. I'd love to hear about your background, and because obviously now you've already had a full career as a Vistage chair, but typically, as we know, that's usually a second or even third career for folks in a lot of cases. So what's
yeah,
your story? What's your background, and how did you ultimately come to Vistage?
yeah. I have a. I think many people say it's an interesting course to becoming a Vistage chair, and it speaks to discovering who we want to be at different stages of life. So, in my early stage career, I did my graduate work at Penn State as an exercise phys, was a strength coach on the staff, and I launched a new company in 1983 called Pro Fitness, and I did that without much outside, with little experience and much outside support. Um, and over 20 years, Pro Fitness set up and operated work site health promotion, wellness, fitness programs. So we provided people, processes, and programs, and the companies brought us in to run those facilities and programs. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So this was
So we were
some,
a company.
you guys were like
Go
a
ahead.
employee benefit type of
Yeah,
situation.
they outsourced the operations to create healthy environments,
Very cool.
improve productivity, improve performance. We had doctors, nurses, health educators. We had about 500 people. We were at 220 locations around North America. I did that for 24 years, and I got burned out. I had some issues with mental health in our family, and I told our team needed to take a sabbatical to think things through. And I went back to school at Fairfield and got a master's in counseling. I became a therapist in Bridgeport, worked with inner city kids. And during that 2 year sabbatical, we had some offers on our business, and I ended up selling to a division of Walgreens and retiring, and went back to my other passion, which was coaching football. And I coached at New Canaan High School for 11 years. We won 7 state championships. So I was coaching and I was counseling in Bridgeport. Um, but I miss business. And I started to look for ways that I could merge my counseling services with my business background, found Vistage, and in 2014 became a Vistage chair. And from there, I started coaching not only executives, but helping people at different transitions of life. So young kids trying to go through high school and college and their first jobs, and then retirees looking to, or seniors looking to retire. And so we created different groups of workshops and programs to facilitate those changes. Right now, I have a company called Step Up, and we have about 40 coaches that are 1099s that help facilitate and coach meetings with those cohorts. So I've kind of evolved from through my career. It's always been about helping others, um, but it's helping people at different stages of life.
What did I'm curious, because you're right, that is a fairly unique path. Um, I'm curious what what your CEO career and your counseling career, what were the commonalities between those two roles?
Helping people to become the best version of themselves, helping people discover their potential. My underlying belief is we all have unique potential, and most of us get limited by our mindsets, by our beliefs. We filter everything through a set of beliefs, through fears, through experiences. We see the world as it is, as we are, not as it is. So the commonality is in both businesses was to help people discover their potential, work through limiting beliefs, and become the version of themselves that they aspire to be so they can perform better. In with Pro Fitness, Pro Health, we did that in a corporate setting through health facilitators. In Vistage, we do that through coaches, through the business issues that we have to solve. Did,
That's really interesting. I'm also curious
mhm.
if you don't mind sharing. I appreciate your being vulnerable and telling us that you were having some very, kind of personal challenges at the point that you said I need to take a step back from the business. And
Mhm.
of course, being the type of person that a Vistage, that ends up being a Vistage coach, you use that also as a vehicle to help other people, that sabbatical. How did that change heal you?
Um, people give you the privilege of taking off their masks and sharing the things that they're struggling with, their challenges, their problems. It helps you realize that we're all human and we all wear masks, but underneath there's really two of us. There's the ones we show people and the things that are going on inside. And that vulnerability of others helped me have a better relationship with myself because I could accept the things about myself that I wasn't accepting. I mean, my limiting belief was I wasn't enough. I always compared myself to others and looked at my shortcomings and how well they did. And so my challenge was, when are we enough?
Right.
And by working with others and helping them, help by them being generous and sharing their issues, I learned more about myself and how to accept myself, and that we're enough when we say we're enough. I may not be as bright as you guys or as good looking, but I'm being the best Daron I can. And if I can accept that, it just helps me be in the moment, not worry about what I say, what I do, how I show up. You're
Uh,
smiling, Mike. Why?
Well, I'm listening to you as you describe your background. I realize that it's all of that background, that experience, that perspective that gives you that ability to ask that question that really cuts to the heart of the matter in a discussion. And I've always marveled at how you do that.
Thank you.
Mike, do you ever find yourself being psychoanalyzed by Darren?
Wow, I hope not.
See,
He's got way too much skill.
does he ever just pull out the pad and say, "All right, Mike, have a seat, lay down. We're gonna work on this."
Well, where he is going to help me is bringing some of his prior experience, and he's going to help me put together a physical training routine, so I can kind
Oh,
of
there you
continue
go.
to stay up to speed and maintain my Vistage presence.
In my unique position, doing this podcast and getting to meet all of you guys, and I want to say that you guys are going to be you probably interview 55 or 56, something like that. So there have been a lot of these, and being in that position, I meet a lot of chairs, and I kind of notice some things that hold you guys together. And one example being that a lot of chairs have military background, but I've also found that a lot of chairs have, in some way, coached football.
Interesting.
There are actually several of you guys, and I'm curious about what you think that sports have contributed to your chair practice. And also, you already mentioned that it was a common bond for you guys. I'd love for you to talk about, as individuals, what it's meant to you.
Okay, who would you like to go first?
You know what? I'm gonna toss it in the air, and somebody should just grab it.
Okay, let's take it as a start from here. My coaching background goes way back to the fact that my dad was a high school football coach. So I kind of grew up in that kind of coaching mentality. And I think that gets you focused on a couple things. One is that as a coach, you realize you can't get on the field and play. That your job is to help each of your players be the best that they can be and be in the position to make the play.
You can't do it
But
for
they
them.
have to make the play. You can't do that for them. So it's an interesting dynamic from that. The other part I found is that as I was putting a group together, one of my value sets is really trying to put together a team of CEOs, a team that feels that they have each other's back, and a team that's committed to each other's success. So, what we talk about in Vistage is being carefrontational. As a member, challenging another member about the direction they're going in and some of the issues they may face, but doing it from a caring standpoint, because your real commitment is not to prove that you're smarter, but it's to help them be successful.
And I suppose also to take the hit once in a while and still keep on going, get back up.
That happens every once in a while. fortunate to get caught before you take a direction you shouldn't.
Yeah, I think well said, Mike. Eric, I think the anybody that's played football you consider a brother because we've all faced fear, we've stood in the way of danger, we've gotten knocked down, and you get back up. Football's about adversity, putting yourself in harm's way and adapting, and working together with others to achieve a common goal. And in doing that, discovering your ability to overcome, to assert your will. And so all those characteristics, football's just a great metaphor for the challenges in life. And I think anybody who we've coached in football, if you really want to see if you were a successful coach, you look at where they are in their lives 10, 20 years later.
Yeah.
And you look at what they've overcome and know that part of their ability to stand up and face those challenges in part came from the character that they built on the football field where they were challenged in ways that many people aren't challenged. So I think there's a real relationship between people who have had successful sports careers. It's interesting. I coached at Penn State as a strength coach, and we had a lot of, I'll call them genetic freaks, just God's gift with tremendous talent. And many of them went on to play in the NFL. But the folks that I've stayed in touch with that had the best careers were the kids who were more average at Penn State, that weren't those genetic freaks, but they worked so hard that they were able to elevate whatever skills they had and perform at a level that most people don't. And they've taken that skill set, that mindset, and had the same trajectory in their careers. So I think that's what football brings that experience brings to folks who are Vistage cheers is we're doing the same thing with adults in the room and challenging them in ways that help them face their fears, their limiting beliefs, face adversity. And, they're really in the business of making decisions and making difficult decisions. And to do that, you got to have some backbone and you got to have some grit. And I think those are common things that attract us to one another.
Now, you guys share an SB group. Um, those aren't as popular as the CE groups, and I believe we've already gotten Mike's take on why the SB group was important to him. But Daron, from your perspective, what was your thinking on doing this SB thing versus there are a lot of chairs who are running 2 or 3 CE groups, and um, the SB groups aren't as numerous.
Yeah, that's very simple. I wasn't enough. I ran a smaller business. Who am I to go in and be a coach for somebody who's running a $500 million business? I don't have that experience. I don't have that knowledge. So I started at a safe place. It's interesting when I started attending CE groups and participating, I realized we're just people and I can do
It's
that.
Yeah.
But when I started out, I didn't feel that I had the acumen I didn't have the confidence in my ability, having not led companies of that size, to feel I could do the job. So it was a safe route.
Oh, very cool. Um, what do you guys see right now in the SB group as being particular challenges that have come up? And we're living in a kind of a unique time at the moment. What are you guys hearing from your members at the moment about the challenges that they're facing, and what's being brought to the group right now?
Go ahead, Mike.
All right. I think that, excuse me, what you see with SB group members, and we're looking at folks that are primarily running companies that are 10 to 15 million and under, that in this kind of uncertainty in our economy, with everything from tariffs to rule changes to what's taking place, they don't have quite the buffer that some larger companies do. So they see the impact much quicker in the marketplace with their customers. they have fewer customers. So if it impacts some of their customers, by definition, that's a bigger percent of their business or revenue than might be elsewhere. They have less of a cushion to survive some of the ups and downs that we see. So I think that they're to some degree the canary in the coal mine. You see some of these impacts much quicker, sooner, and much deeper. So they need to be more adaptable, more agile in terms of how they respond.
What would you add to that, Daron?
Resources and time.
Yeah.
Time is one of the resources. When you run a small company, you may have 20, 30, 40 people. You're still more of a chief everything officer. You got your fingerprints on everything, and you don't have time to, you don't have the infrastructure to be able to sit back and work on your business. You're constantly working in it. And you're still not sure that you can trust people and give up the things that you've been doing when you started the company. And you don't have the resources oftentimes to hire enough staff to have a true organization underneath you. So the room for error is less, margins are, profits are less, and you've got to run a tighter ship. So you don't have the luxuries that I believe larger companies have, where they have a whole management team underneath them, and they can afford to think about their business and spend time in ways. And we have, I think, numerous members who, we have half day meetings instead of full day meetings. They can't afford to take a full day away from their job. They're getting calls in the middle of the day because they're still so much involved in the operation of their business. And the challenge for small business is, how do we scale? How do we grow larger? What are the steps we take? How do we drive revenue so that we can afford to hire the people we need to grow our business? And that's that $10 to $20 million range is, the most difficult area, I think, of any business, because under that, you're still somewhat of a sole entrepreneur. And above that, you really begin to run an organization. But getting there, that gap is a real challenge. And I think why many small business members join Vistage, because they want to close that gap more efficiently and sooner.
I like that answer a lot. Guys, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for being incredible guests today. If folks have questions about your group, about coaching football, or becoming a therapist in your spare time, what's the best way to get in touch with you guys?
Well, go ahead, Mike.
I would think email. In this case, Michael.Tetreau, Tetreau, at vistagechair.com. How about you, Daron?
Yeah, Daron.Shepard at vistagechair.com. And Eric, I'd like to say one more thing. Do you know what synchronicity is?
I do know what synchronicity is.
How do you define it?
I define it as unique parts of a machine behaving as one.
Okay.
Or organization.
Yep. It's a Carl Jung concept.
It's also a Police album, I believe.
The universe has an intention. All these seemingly random acts are happening for a purpose. And it's our opportunity to discover the purpose. There's 8 billion people in the world. Why are the three of us talking right now? There's something we're supposed to discover. So I'd like to leave by asking you a question.
Be my guest.
Yeah. And this is a rhetorical question. What did you get out of the meeting? What were you supposed to learn? And how is this going to change your trajectory in life? And we should ask ourselves the same thing, Mike. Why did we meet? What was the underlying intention for us to learn? And I don't know that it's that obvious, but we're in this room together for a reason. Let's discover how we're supposed to help each other in our careers and in our trajectory. And maybe this shouldn't be the last time that we all talk.
Oh, absolutely not.
If there's something you're curious about, Eric, something that you're wondering about how you change your life, your trajectory, all these coaches, call us up and ask us. Maybe there's a reason we met today, because you're supposed to have a conversation later that's going to help you pursue what it is that you're ultimately going to pursue.
Eric, you can see
I
from
welcome
that
that
why I
conversation.
love, yep, why I love working with Daron.
Absolutely.
He comes up with a question like this that really gets to the heart of the matter in terms of why we're here and what's our purpose.
I can tell you guys this for sure. Your members are very fortunate to have you both.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank
So,
you.
Appreciate it.
well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate you, and we will definitely talk again another time.
Look
Forward.
forward
It's
to
been
it.
a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time, Eric. Mike, good to see you.
See you soon.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Chairwaves. You can subscribe to our feed using Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your platform of choice. You can also visit Chairwaves.com for more information. Chairwaves is hosted and produced by me, Eric Wolf, and to connect with me, you can visit my website at ewolf.live. That's EWOLF.live. And a disclaimer, while I love Vistage and CEO peer groups, this podcast is not owned by or affiliated with Vistage or any other peer organization. Thanks for listening.